She said it with such quiet certainty that, for a split second, I thought I'd heard her wrong. We were standing in the kitchen that morning, sunlight slipping through the blinds and painting thin golden lines across the floor. 2 untouched mugs of coffee sat cooling between us. Claire looked up at me, eyes steady, and said, "I'm not obligated to make you happy." Her voice was calm, deliberate, the kind of tone people use when they've practiced the words in their head long before saying them out loud. A small muscle in my jaw tightened, but I forced a smile. "I never asked you to be," I said, trying to sound casual, steady. She gave a soft shrug. "Then stop acting like you did." That was when I realized what I'd been trying not to admit. Our marriage had already hollowed out. For months, living with her felt like being trapped in a house where every door was locked from the inside. We spoke, but only to fill silence. We touched, but it meant nothing. The air between us had a pulse of its own, slow, heavy, suffocating. The night before, I had spent hours kneeling on the bathroom floor, wrestling with the leaking faucet. Claire walked past me several times. Not once did she ask if I needed help. Not a word of acknowledgement. When I finally gave up, raw hands gripping the wrench, she looked down and said flatly, "You get frustrated too easily." That was when it hit me. She no longer saw me, just my flaws framed in her quiet disdain. So when she said the next morning that she wasn't responsible for my happiness, it wasn't cruelty that stung. It was indifference. She wasn't angry. She was detached. I studied her face then, calm, unbothered, almost relieved. Like someone who'd rehearsed this scene a dozen times and was finally delivering her final line. I said quietly, "Then I won't waste my life trying to make you happy either." Something flickered behind her eyes. Not remorse, not shock, just recognition. As if she had already expected that response. She turned away, picked up her phone, and began scrolling like I wasn't even there. That was the moment I stopped trying to bargain with indifference. For years I'd measured love in effort. Flowers after arguments, surprise weekend trips, long messages left unread. I'd poured everything into keeping something alive that she'd quietly let die. But that morning, standing in that silent kitchen, I realized no amount of love matters when the other person has already checked out. I went to work as usual that day, smiled, nodded through meetings. But her words kept echoing in my mind, each one sharper with every replay. It wasn't anger I felt. It was clarity. When I returned home that evening, she was on the couch, watching some show, laughter loud and artificial. Her phone sat on the table, buzzing every few minutes. She didn't pick it up right away. She waited like she wanted me to notice, then checked the screen, smiled faintly, and set it down. I didn't need to ask who it was. You can always tell when someone's heart is elsewhere. Over the next few days, I continued playing my part, cooking, asking about her day, pretending everything was normal. She replied with one-word answers. At night, she turned her back to me, the glow of her phone lighting the sheets. I didn't feel anger anymore. Just observation. I was collecting evidence, not of her betrayal but of my own denial. The final proof came on a Wednesday night. Her phone connected automatically to the car's Bluetooth, while she was in the kitchen. A man's voice came through the speakers, soft and intimate. "Last night was perfect. I can still smell your perfume." I sat there frozen, staring at the illuminated screen, the timestamp clear. I didn't shout or throw anything. When she came back and saw the message displayed, her face went pale. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. The silence that followed was longer than any argument we'd ever had. Finally I stood, met her eyes, and said quietly, "You were right, Claire. You're not obligated to make me happy. But you were never supposed to make me feel worthless either." She didn't follow me when I left the room. Didn't cry. Didn't apologize. Just silence, heavy and final. Outside, the night air was cold against my skin. My thoughts, sharper now, cut through the fog of years. I wasn't afraid of losing her anymore. I was afraid of losing myself if I stayed. I drove aimlessly through the city, empty streets, glowing traffic lights, the hum of solitude. I thought about who I used to be before this marriage drained me dry. How many times I'd swallowed my instincts to keep peace. How often she'd told me I was too sensitive, too emotional. All while she built her walls and called them boundaries. By the time I returned home, my decision was already made. Claire was asleep on the couch, phone still in her hand. I stood there just watching her. She looked peaceful, ironic, considering the wreckage she'd caused. I didn't touch the phone. I didn't scroll through her messages. I didn't need to. Once the truth shows its face, you can't unsee it. I went upstairs, packed a single bag, some clothes, my passport, and an old photo of us back when our smiles were real. Then I sat down at my desk and typed a short letter. You were right, Claire. You're not obligated to make me happy. But love isn't about obligation. It's about care. And when care fades, love doesn't end loudly. It dies quietly. I hope you find whatever it is you were searching for. I'm done searching for you. I left the letter beside her phone and the cold coffee she'd ignored that morning. Then I walked out. No yelling. No slamming doors. Just silence, clean and final. For the next few days, I stayed at a small Airbnb across town. She didn't call. Didn't text. That silence told me everything. I checked my bank account, noticed a few suspicious transfers, and froze our joint one. Not out of revenge, just self-preservation. A week later, she finally messaged me. So you're just walking away after everything? I replied, exactly, because of everything. Then I blocked her. Peace returned faster than I expected. Mornings felt lighter. I started running again, cooking simple meals, rediscovering laughter. The emptiness she left behind wasn't painful anymore. It was space to rebuild. Months passed. Friends asked what happened, but I never gave details. I'd just say, we stopped being on the same team. That was enough. One evening after the gym, I saw a message from an unknown number. I didn't have to open it to know who it was. The preview read, I made a mistake. Can we talk? I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I'd already found closure in the quiet she left behind. Eventually, her lawyer's letter arrived. Divorce papers. I signed them that same day. The pen glided easily, no hesitation, no tremor. When everything was done, I sat by my apartment window, watching the evening light pour in. For the first time in years, the silence around me didn't feel like punishment. Felt like peace. I understood then, happiness had never been her duty. It had always been mine. And I had finally begun to protect it. That night, I took the old photograph of us from my bag. I tore it neatly in half. Not out of anger, but release. I kept my half, the version of me who tried, who loved, who learned. The other half, I let drift away like a leaf caught in wind.